Themistocles sends him a slave and says, Xerxes, Themistocles would like to be your friend, has seen the light. And you can capture the entire Greek fleet if you just attack now.
In a letter delivered by a slave, Themistocles spelled out plans for a Greek withdrawal from Salamis to be carried out under cover of darkness the following night.
Xerxes thinks this is a great opportunity. After all, he had experience with traitors. Ephialtes had showed up just about at the right time at Thermopylae, and now here was this guy Themistocles. Great.
Convinced the Greek navy was in total disarray, Xerxes decided it was the perfect time to strike.
So Xerxes does it. Launches the Persian fleet against the Greek fleet in the very constricted waters around Salamis, which is exactly what Themistocles had hoped for. Themistocles knew those waters intimately. He had his fleet stationed to take advantage of the constriction. He also knew when the wind was going to come up behind them, and so when they could charge out most effectively. And what happens is that the Persians charge forward, the Greeks charge forward on their ships.
I think we could say it was probably the greatest sea battle in sheer numbers involved in the history of Western civilization.
While the Greek fleet moved out like a giant octopus from its rocky lair, King Xerxes was safely perched atop his gold throne at Mount Agelaos. By the time he realized his powerful vanguard was trapped, the noose had already tightened. The Persian advantage in numbers, 400 triremes to 300 for the Greeks, was quickly neutralized in the narrow straits.
And the whole thing gets locked up into kind of a logjam very quickly. The Persian ships are not able to maneuver.
So once you could just turn the battle into ramming and make some incursions inside the Persian fleet, then drowning would be your greatest ally.
The Greek ships have posted Marines on them, hoplites, who then jump from ship to ship, doing great massacre.
It was probably the single largest casualty rate of any sea battle in history. There may have been 60,000 Persians that drowned right off the coast of Attica. It's a great disaster for the Persians. It's an out-and-out victory for the Greeks.
The water was thick with bodies and wreckage. The Persians lost 200 warships, the Greeks just 40. Xerxes was angry and humiliated.
The result of the Battle of Salamis is that Xerxes and the bulk of his army has to evacuate Greece. He simply can't keep a grand army in Greece unless he can be absolutely sure of being able to resupply it. With loss of control at sea, with loss of dominance on the waves, he is at risk, and the bulk of his army then is evacuated.
But Xerxes' cousin, General Mardonius, was personally chosen to carry on the war in Greece. With a crack force of 30,000 men, Mardonius moved north to Thessaly, where there were adequate supplies to see his men through the winter. Meanwhile, Athens and Sparta were bickering jealously among themselves. The Athenians, who bore the brunt of the naval battles, expected a quid pro quo from Sparta's celebrated hoplite warriors, demanding that they lead a ground assault against the Persians. Mardonius learned of the deepening rift between his rivals and attempted to exploit it.
One of Xerxes' vassals, who is a Macedonian king, is sent to the Athenians and to the Spartans with an offer that they should come quietly and Xerxes will treat them decently.
The Athenians, hoping to force the Spartans to fully mobilize their military machine, considered the deal.
The Athenians allow a threat to be quietly conveyed to the Spartans, that if the Spartans do not come to the defense of Attica, do not move into Boeotia, the Athenians might withdraw.
Or worse, the Athenians hinted at the unthinkable, an alliance with Persia. At that point, Sparta's blandly elusive ambassadors decided the political chess game must end. the Greeks would unite for one final confrontation with the Persians near the town of Plataea.
They've all got to march to the same drummer. And here really is where Spartan leadership comes to the fore. The Spartans are now under the command of not a king, but a regent, Pausanias.
By the summer of 479 BC, the Persian forces had swelled to more than 50,000. To the south, Sparta mobilized 5,000 of its finest warriors, while Athens contributed an additional 8,000 troops. Then the Spartans armed 35,000 Messenian helots, offering them freedom in exchange for bravery on the battlefield.
Pausanias seems to have a lot of really raw organizational capacity. He's got a lot of military sense. He's got, perhaps though more important than that, a sense of how diplomatically to keep together this large, diverse, internally conflicted Greek force. It's not clear that anybody other than a Spartan could have pulled that off at this point.
For 11 days, the rival commanders held fast to their respective positions on the plain of Plataea. Mardonius and the Persian cavalry to the north, Pausanias and the Greek infantry to the south. Finally, at the crack of dawn the next morning, the Persians broke the deadlock with a thundering assault.
The Persian cavalry is able to inflict really severe initial damage on the Greek forces.
The Greeks were forced to redeploy their troops. Although the 5,000 Spartan hoplites comprised only 10% of the Allied force, their discipline, heavy body armor, and thrusting spears made them an overpowering presence.
I think once the Persians decide to fight an infantry battle on the plain of Plataea, there's not much that Mardonius or the Persian High Command can do, because ultimately it's going to be a question of men with wicker and linen trying to charge ranks of serried spears, and there's no army in the world that can do that other than the Spartan army.
As the ferocious battle intensified, the heavily armed Spartans turned the battlefield into a river of blood. The Persians were butchered like cattle.
The Spartans were the heart of the Greek success at the Battle of Plataea. This was a hoplite battle, and the Spartans had the strongest Greek hoplite army. They were playing to their strengths. So if Salamis is the signature victory of the Athenians, the victory at sea, Plataea is the signature victory of the Spartans, the victory on land.
The end finally came when Persian general Mardonius was killed. His guardsmen fled for their lives, while the few Persian soldiers still standing scattered to the four winds. Greek losses were minimal, around 1,000. However, the Persian troops, once 50,000 strong, were decisively defeated. As a fighting force, they were no longer a threat, ending forever King Xerxes' dream of conquering the West.